It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
You are about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So before we begin, I know there's a lot of news today. Today is actually the National Day of Prayer. And we have spoken time and time again about the health benefits of prayer and how many people are, the younger generations are less, shall we say, religious or pious than older generations like the Gen X, baby boomers, traditionalists. And I think a lot of people have the wrong idea of how to pray and what prayer means and why there's so many health benefits with it. And the National Day of Prayer, this isn't something new. This started way back with the Continental Congress. In fact, the history of the National Day of Prayer dates back to 1775 when they say the Continental Congress called for a day of public humiliation, fasting, and prayer. Now, I don't know if it meant to humiliate the public, but in terms of being humble. Then George Washington and John Adams proclaimed National Days of Prayer and Thanksgiving. In 1863, President Abraham Lincoln signed a congressional resolution for a day of fasting and prayer. In 1952, President Truman signed a joint resolution establishing the National Day of Prayer as an annual event. So President Truman gets props for that. And then in 1988, President Ronald Reagan amended the law to designate the first Thursday in May as the official day. Now, this is according to the National Day of Prayer website. So when you look at what to pray is, I think a lot of people have a different idea of what prayer is, where they have to be in temple or church for hours, or they have to go through, all these prayers exactly, or they have to listen to clergy, or you could pray any way you want, as long as it's not blasphemous, as long as it's not disrespectful. You want to have a conversation with God, or you want to meditate, or you want to, it's very individualized. The definition of prayer, according to Oxford, is to address a solemn request or expression of thanks to a deity or other object of worship. And so it's really, to make a request in a humble manner, to address God or God with adoration, confession, supplication, thanksgiving. There's a lot of wiggle room here. If you want to give thanks, you could give thanks. If you want to ask for things, you could ask for things. If you want to apologize and atone or confess, you could do that. But I think a lot of people have a definition or an idea of prayer, and they say, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. Because then I got to think about all the bad thing I've done. Then I'm going to admit it. If I admit it, then that means I did it. And then I'm guilty. And then I'm going to go to hell. And God writes down everything we say. And then if I admit it, and so I think a lot of people have different misconceptions of what prayer could be. And then when you see these studies time and time again, the power of prayer and how we've seen so much healing benefits from it, from the pathophysiology of that, people always ask biologically, how does prayer help your health? Is it God intervening, or is there some other sort of a scientific explanation for this? And I think there's a lot of scientific explanations for it. One is you're lowering your stress, you're lowering your cortisol. When you lower your stress, you lower your cortisol, you lower your inflammation. You give your immune system a chance to regroup. You actually focus your brain off of the pain, off of the trauma of the illness, and focus it on another focus, whether it's God, whether it's pray, whatever you're praying about. And so this diversion, this is a subjugate. What's the word for when you submersion, into prayer can oftentimes minimize stress, minimize inflammation, and also release endorphins, release dopamine, and not to mention the power of prayer. You're praying. God listens. So for those of you that don't know how to pray, and it's National Day of Prayer, and you feel guilty, or every time you see a church or temple or mosque, you're like, okay, I don't belong there because I don't go by the book. Many people feel like in their religion, if they don't do every single thing by the book and follow all 612 laws or whatever, that then it doesn't count. Maybe some religions feel that way. I don't. If you follow one law, 2 laws, 3 laws, it's a start. And if you want to slowly get closer to God, or if you want to pray, even if you don't believe in God, but whatever power you think is keeping everything balanced or allowing us to be alive on this earth, it's very soothing. Whether you meditate, whether you do introspection, whether you prayer, I don't care. And the National Day of Prayer, what I like about it is, it allows people to stop, whether you only want to pray for 10 seconds or 5 seconds, or whether you want to spend the day in church or temple. It's whatever helps you. I always feel good walking into a place of worship. I just do. I don't know if I just feel an energy. I feel a light. And for me, for some people, they don't feel it. That's okay. But you might want to go outside, sit on the grass. You might want to look at the flowers, look at some nature, and then, talk to God. There's so many different ways you could do it. And I'm telling you right now, it counts. Now, it might not be the full 100% score you want to get on the assignment, but it counts. And once you start to find a way that allows you to deal with your spirituality or deal with what you feel you need in order to, either atone or to pray for or to give thanks for, you get into a groove. And so the way I pray is very different than I think a lot of other individuals. Now some people, they want to just go and listen to clergy say the prayers. And you go, I agree, amen, hallelujah, amen. And that's fine. For some people, that helps them. For others, they need to find their own words. My attendance, at temple and church is not very admirable. I don't go a lot, but I pray every single day. And I think that's what helps my attitude. And so, for those of you that don't know how to pray, there's tons of different ways you can do it. And I think it's very beneficial. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hotshot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So clinical depression or major depressive disorder is one of the most common mental health disorders, with almost 21 million adults in the United States having experienced at least one major depressive episode. That doesn't include the numbers of people with dysthymia and mild depression that can lead to major depression. So as mental health continues to be an increasing prevalent crisis in the United States, we are really, really excited about Dr. Lisa Harding, board-certified psychiatrist and medical director at Depression MD, and Mark, who lives with treatment-resistant depression. They are joining us as we discuss Mental Health Month this May and talk about the challenges that come with difficult-to-treat depression. I am so excited to have both of you on. Dr. Harding, let's start with you. Can you tell us about the signs and symptoms of clinical depression and how common it is?
Thank you so much for having us, especially in this month. And, thank you to Johnson & Johnson for working with us to get this information out. First and foremost, I think depression should be diagnosed by a clinician. But when we talk about depression, we talk about the persistence of low mood and anhedonia, which is a technical term for people that really just don't enjoy life and are not able to participate in that. And that goes on for about 2 weeks. Most of that's intuitive to most of us when we can see someone and think, maybe they look a little bit sad. The minor symptoms are a little bit more elusive. The minor symptoms of depression refer to the symptoms that we don't often attribute to depression. Depression can cause insomnia. Depression can cause hypersomnia, can cause people to sleep too much. Depression can affect our appetite. Patients can tend to lose weight or sometimes gain weight when they're depressed. Depression can actually influence the way in which we concentrate. Patients can actually develop poor concentration. So it's that constellation or the combination of those two major and minor symptoms that we determine as clinical depression. A subset of clinical depression is treatment-resistant depression. So they're exhibiting the major and minor symptoms. But these patients, like Mark with us here today, have tried and actually not responded to more than 2 antidepressants at adequate dose and duration. And it's the first time we have a treatment that can help patients with treatment-resistant depression that's FDA approved.
Oh, that's fantastic. Can you talk to us about some of those treatments or the treatment you're alluding to?
So Spravato was FDA approved in 2019. It's an intranasal spray that, for safety reasons, has to be done in a doctor's office or a REMS-certified treatment center. It's administered with or without an oral antidepressant. The FDA actually granted permission for the drug just this year to be used with or without an oral antidepressant. And it is the first time that we have a treatment that can target a different mechanism of action for depression. You know, for the past 40 years, we have all the drugs have targeted depression in only one way, meaning the neurotransmitters. So they either target serotonin, norepinephrine, or dopamine. And this is the first FDA-approved product that targets glutamate. Glutamate is what we call an excitatory neurotransmitter, and so that's the proposed mechanism of action.
It's fantastic. Mark, you've lived through this. Talk to us about your experience with the treatment-resistant depression.
Sure thing. First of all, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak to you and your listeners, and thanks to Johnson & Johnson for the same. I'll start off with depression. Depression with me manifests itself in the classic symptoms: depressed mood, just not feeling good. But it also deprived me of the ability to feel any joy from anything. So social activities, hobbies, sporting events, music, whatever it may be, things that I really spent my life enjoying, I just lost interest in those things because they brought me no joy. And as the years go on and you go through life and one year turns into another and you're going through life without feeling any joy, you don't have anything to look forward to. You don't look forward to the family reunion or the concert that's coming up or the Super Bowl or whatever it is that you enjoy doing. You don't look forward to those things, so it makes life tough to live. You're just going through the motions. You feel like a robot or a zombie, and you go through, you drag your feet one day to the next and do the bare minimum that you have to do to get by and pay the bills. And, honestly, that's no way to live life.
So true. As a doctor, I teach medical students when we give a diagnosis of high blood pressure or congestive heart failure or diabetes or depression, that's a big commitment, giving that diagnosis. And we have to understand what patients might be thinking when they are given the diagnosis. So talk to us about how you felt when you were, when you received that diagnosis of depression.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it's going to be really relevant to a lot of people my age and my generation, is that I initially went to my family doctor because I didn't feel good physically. I didn't have a lot of energy, insomnia. I didn't have a desire to do a lot of things. I felt lazy, for lack of a better term. And I thought there was something physically wrong with me. And it turns out, I was clinically depressed, as Dr. Harding said, with the secondary side effects or the minor side effects. And I was in disbelief. I'm of an age where we didn't talk about mental health when I was growing up. It wasn't in our vocabulary. Depression wasn't in our vocabulary. If it was a condition that was so extreme, you're talking about somebody that would be a recluse or something like that. So I was in disbelief and somewhat in denial out of just sheer stubbornness because a diagnosis of depression at the time I felt like was something I could just power through. I can will my way out of depression. I'm a smart guy. And when I educated myself on what depression really was and understood the diagnosis was when I tried to start making progress, whether it was through oral antidepressants or exercise or changing lifestyles. I did all the textbook things at the textbook things at the time to combat the depression, and nothing seemed to work for me. It was like as I would try one medicine and not have success with that, I would go to the next, and each successive step only made my depression worse because each time it failed to make me feel better, I brought that back onto myself and blamed myself for that, not on the treatment regimen or the science behind it. It was my fault, is the way I looked at it. Right.
So talk about your current treatment plan.
So a couple of years ago, just almost 2 years ago to the date, I was seeing my therapist because I'd kind of given up on getting better. So I was doing some talk therapy and trying to help myself that way. And she introduced me to Spravato, which was, I think, about 3 years old at the time, and referred me to the clinic that I attend today. And so I went to the clinic, got an evaluation, and the evaluation showed that I was textbook for treatment-resistant depression because I'd tried 5 different antidepressants 7 different times. And I was physically fit enough to be a candidate for Spravato. So I started the initial treatment regimen, which is 2 treatments per week for 4 weeks, and then going on a maintenance schedule after that. And after the first week, which was my second treatment, I noticed that the clarity in my brain and my thought process was better. There were less intrusive thoughts. My thoughts were more organized, and I just had less clutter and noise in my brain. So after only 2 treatments, I started to see a positive effect from it.
Oh, it's amazing.
You combine that. It was amazing. And when I woke up that next morning and just kind of took assessment of how I felt, I was surprised. I was shocked, and I was in somewhat disbelief. I was like, I feel so much better just out of 2 treatments. This can't be sustainable, is what I told myself. Well, 2 years later, I'll tell you, for me personally, it is sustainable. And so today, I'm a person who I look forward to the things that I enjoy doing. I am more social. I'm a better partner to my wife. I'm a better family member. And I look forward to the next day.
Yes,
I looked forward
absolutely.
to talking to you today and discussing this topic and getting the word out.
Oh, thank God.
So,
thank God. Yeah. So in closing, I apologize. It looks like we're coming up on break. Dr. Harding or Mark, can you tell our listeners where they can go for more information?
Definitely. After the evaluation, you can go to spravato.com. It has all the important safety information. If you are a physician like yourself and you want more information, they have the clinical trials posted on there. And if you are a patient, there's a portion of the website that has a lot of the information in layman's terms.
Love it. Dr. Harding, Mark, thank you so much for having us. Can't wait to have you back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Take care. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away, guys.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Daliah. I really apologize about my allergies. 3 months of the year, you guys have to listen to me stuffy. Sorry about that. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So breaking news today is we're told that Mike Walz, National Security Advisor, may be on his way out of the Trump administration. This originated or stemming from that highly sensitive group chat on that Signal app, where Mike Walz allegedly added the Atlantic journalist to the group chat. And this had become one of the biggest scandals, maybe not biggest in terms of actual presidential scandals, but it was something that dominated the media and dominated some of Trump's attention, even though he's like, I got bigger, and badder things to do. Right now, you guys all talk about the chat. But it was significant. It was. And, Mike Walz apparently did take responsibility. According to Fox News, he said, I take full responsibility. I built the group. It's embarrassing. We're going to get to the bottom of it. And Mike Walz was previously a Florida congressman, a decorated Green Beret member. To see him leaving as a result of a technical, and how many times have we accidentally mistexted or mistyped or, it's a sad day. However, you are the national security advisor, and that was a pretty big screw up. And if, people of, shall we say, less high statures and positions get canned and lose their security clearance, if there's going to be consistency within the government and high, what's the word I'm looking for? And I apologize, where you have expectations, then I'm not surprised this is happening. So what does the National Security Advisor do? Well, he is the primary advisor to the president on national security, whether it's domestic, foreign, military policies. And, with his Green Beret background, and he's been working with Trump for years, he was a good match. But national security advisors not supposed to be adding additional people on the text. And people ask, was it really him? Was he the one that designed it, or doesn't he have an aide? Don't they have executive assistants or secretaries or whatever we call them now, that do a lot of that sort of work, so then he just comes on and does his job? The problem is you are responsible for your staff. And I mean, he might be an amazing national security advisor. I don't know. I don't know much about him. But a mistake like this, sadly, shows that there's some lapse. It's not airtight. And a journalist who, rather than, the journalist should have said, how many times have you accidentally gotten a message or something and you wrote back saying, oh, this got sent to me by mistake? I never stay quiet. If something gets sent to me by mistake, I immediately want to let them know, because one, I don't want them making the same mistake. Number two is I don't want them thinking that I'm going to take that information and do something nefarious with it. Everybody goes, yeah, but she doesn't check her email. She doesn't check her text. No, people assume you do. And so I rather go for honesty. And I'm like, you accidentally sent me this email. You accidentally sent me this patient record. You accidentally sent me this. You need to know, because I don't want them making the same mistake. I don't understand why the journalist didn't say, hey, guys, are you sure you want me on this? Do you need me to report on this? Instead, they stayed quiet. They did stay quiet, fortunately, until after the Houthi attack. But then, you know what? Now I'm going to make a story, and now I'm going to get my 15 minutes of fame. And so, I don't like to see any drama or anything like this. But it was a mess. That shouldn't happen. And then you wonder what other group chats could have included reporters. And I am anti-half-assed. If you are going to be working for the government, you don't do things half-assed. You don't do things halfway. Every single decision you make needs to be a very thought-out decision. Every communication you make needs to be thought out. And I understand that now, because this is 2025, we're using communication like texting, and doctors have to be careful too. With that, but we're not supposed to be discussing patients on text. We're not supposed to be discussing patients on emails. If any of my staff mess up, it's on me. Many doctors lose their licenses or get censured for lack of medical records or appropriate record keeping. Well, if your staff isn't inputting the labs, if your staff isn't, record keeping correctly, if your staff is accidentally faxing or emailing something to another doctor, that's on you. You run that ship. And it's overwhelming. I see medical students and then their new doctors going, I wasn't trained in how to manage staff. In medical school, you're spending so much time trying to learn the chemistry, the biology, the anatomy, the embryology, the histology, the pathology, the pharmacology, the family medicine, the OB, the internal medicine, the neurology, the urology, the GI, the gastroenterology. I mean, you are trying to learn hematology, all of that. Not to mention, I learned Spanish because I had to be able to communicate with my with my patients. I had to learn a second language. There is no time to learn how to manage staff who might be doing something half-assed. But it's on you. When a nurse who I asked to run a pregnancy test knocked on my door when I was with the patient saying, it's negative, all clear, I'm like, good. All right, now we can move forward. I could order a scan because we know we're not. And then I walk out of the room. I double-checked everything. And here there was a positive pregnancy test just sitting there. And I'm like, whose pregnancy test is this? Well, that's and you just told me it was negative. Oh, I must not have let it sit long enough. If I would have ordered a scan and anything would have happened to that patient from the scan, one, it hurts the patient. One, it could hurt the baby. And two, I could lose my license. All because a staff member didn't do their job correctly. And so you need to, it's a shame, and I don't know if he was just the scapegoat for this. Is it that one of his assistants screwed up, and he took the fall? But we one of the reasons why we're going to see AI expand to the degree is I think a lot of people are tired of being responsible for individuals under them that do half-ass work. And it's much easier to then blame the software than to blame a person or blame, it's frustrating. People ask, will I ever go back to private practice and open up my own practice? The answer is no. And why? Well, one, Obamacare is still the law of the land, and everybody has high deductibles, so insurance won't pay and patients can't pay. Deductibles are too high, so insurance doesn't kick in until a patient pays $10,000 or $11,000 a year or $12,000. So no money will come in. But number two is there is no way for me to ensure that the staff is going to do their job. God bless the nurses and the staff that worked for me, but boy, did we have some people that came through our office, half-ass. Blood pressures, 120/80. After the third patient with a blood pressure of 120/80, I'm like, I'm going to check the blood pressure myself. She didn't know how to check a blood pressure. Why? Because her previous office just used digital. And we had a digital one, and the digital one still didn't match her blood pressure reading or the actual patient's blood pressure reading. So we'll see what happens. But this departure of Mike Walz is definitely telling that Trump wants to make sure the high standards are met in his administration. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dali, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So the question has come up, if our vaccines are using cell lines from aborted fetuses. This is why many people had religious exemptions to the COVID vaccine, because they believed that the HEC-293 cells were being used. And I'll review that again with you all. And so there's been now some criticism of RFK Jr., where he has allegedly made statements that the MMR vaccine includes aborted fetus debris, quote, aborted fetus debris, unquote. And so health department officials released statements that they may look at vaccine testing and build new surveillance systems to look at, what's in these, what's, if how they the vaccines are going to be, the vaccine system is going to be restructured, and with the focus on transparency and looking at risks versus benefits. But people are concerned that a statement such as an aborted fetus debris in a vaccine is going to scare parents into using vaccines. So, going back to where this started, was the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine had been allegedly using HEC-293 cells. HEC-293 are human embryonic kidney cell lines. This was reported back in 2021. And these cell lines were derived decades ago from fetal tissue from an aborted fetus in the 1970s. Johnson & Johnson uses an adenovirus, even though we're not really using the Johnson & Johnson virus vaccine, COVID vaccine, but they use an adenovirus that was weakened to transport the DNA to get into our cells, to then make the RNA, to make the spike proteins for our immune system, so they could learn to identify, then prepare to fight COVID. Whereas the Pfizer and Moderna used a liposome. So they didn't use an adenovirus that might have been, related to this with the HEC-293 cell line. The cell lines are used because they could rapidly divide and are presumed, quote unquote, immortal, and that they could replicate an unlimited amount of times in a laboratory setting if needed. Now, we discovered that we have that sort of technology where we could use cell lines that replicate when, I don't know if you ever read the book on Henrietta Lacks. HeLa cells originated from Henrietta Lacks' cervix. From what I understand, she did not give permission for those cells to be used, but she had cervical cancer. And she was treated in Johns Hopkins in 1951. But they found that her cells could be life-saving in that they kept replicating and not dying out. And they could use those to study them decades later, or to use them to, sometimes you need these cells in order to create something else, like another medication or another vaccine. So HeLa cells and HEC293 cell lines have been used ubiquitously in medical research to fight cancer, design medications, and create vaccines. HEC293 cells replicate rapidly. So to make 100 million COVID vaccines in such a short time, companies looked at the HEC293 because they have such a prolific cell line, and they felt they could then accomplish the replication process that quickly. Back in 2021, none of the vaccines authorized for emergency use had particles of HEC293 cell lines for fetal tissue. Pfizer and Moderna didn't need the cell lines. They were able to make their vaccines without it. But Johnson & Johnson allegedly did rely on the HEC293 to make theirs. And so there was a statement by the Catholics, the United States Conference of Catholics Bishop back in 2021, suggesting that if Catholics have a choice in their vaccine to use Pfizer, to go for Pfizer or Moderna, and then avoid Johnson & Johnson, because the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith had judged that when ethically irreproachable COVID-19 vaccines are not available, it is morally acceptable to receive the COVID-19 vaccines that have used cell lines from aborted fetuses in their research and production process. So, but basically what they said is if it's, if you have nothing else and it's either this or dying, you could go ahead and use them. Well, what about the MMR vaccine? Does the MMR vaccine use HEC293? I don't know much about the MMR vaccine, but according to Google AI, all right, and I'm telling you where I got this from, they said that the MMR vaccine was used during using WI38 cells. Back in 1970, the MMR vaccine was used using WI38 cells. Those did at the time come from an aborted fetal lung cell line. So does the current MMR vaccines use WI38 cells? I don't know. But this is something Kennedy wants to look at. Using, fetal cell lines derived, and I guess where this came from was, I think they were Sweden. And they were, back in the 60s, I think there were 2 aborted fetuses. Was it Sweden or Switzerland? I have to look it up. And that's where those cell lines were used for MMR vaccines. So, I'm not a religious scholar. Okay. I'm not a biblical scholar. I'm not clergy. If you feel that a vaccine or a medication that was created and developed as a result of a piece of fetal tissue from an abortion, and you feel that's something against your religion, that's between you and your clergy. And, but for me, I understand how things have been used in, like pig hearts and pig kidneys. I'm supposed to keep kosher, but if I need my life to be saved and you're telling me the organ is pig, and I have a choice of living or dying, I'll take the pig heart. I'll take the pig. But that's just me personally. I'm not here to make, any decision, for you. But aborted fetal tissue is not necessarily they're aborting the baby right now and then taking the pieces of that aborted baby and using it. Which is horrifying to think that, but back in the 60s and 70s, they, found that they could utilize some of those cells, which are very replicative, and were able to figure out a way how they could use that for the development of medications. And so, aborted fetal tissue and vaccines and aborted fetal tissue research, it's not an easy topic. And I don't want to see any baby, that had a life and an opportunity to live to be aborted. It is the ending of a life. But it's, unfortunately we have a landscape now where we have about 1 million women facing unwanted pregnancies. And I think, when we go back and forth on the abortion issue and, should the government be involved? Should government not be involved? I think the majority of people want the government to stay out of it, which is what SCOTUS did with the reversing of Roe v. Wade, saying we're not supposed to be involved. Government is not supposed to ban or allow. The government has to stay out of it. It's not in the Constitution. Even though that allows people to have the government dissected out of that decision, the SCOTUS punted it to states, and states could decide based on what their constituents want. I believe in Nevada, recently, voters voted in abortion throughout any time in pregnancy, which would include late-term abortions. I don't know if the voters understood what they were voting for, but that was within the law that got voted for. And I would like to see more attention on preventing the unwanted pregnancies. It's so tragic, that we're having so many women face that decision to end the life of their fetus. 1-877-Daliah. Don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.